If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the ROL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk ROL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at ROL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armand Fadi, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there were so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code ROL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to rolacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content that you have come to expect. On this episode, we are lucky enough to have, for the second time, Professor Gustavo Dantes. Today, Gustavo discusses his views on work-life balance, how to find what type of training is best for you, the difference between watching and studying jiu-jitsu, focusing on the gain versus the gap, and his nonprofit Jiu Jitsu Tribe. Here's the ROL Radio with 5th degree black belt, owner and head instructor at GD Jiu Jitsu in Tempe, Arizona, author, podcaster, public speaker, certified mental and life coach, president of the Arizona Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation, and co-founder of the nonprofit Jiu Jitsu Tribes, Gustavo Dantes.
Welcome to ROL Radio.
And we are live. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I am good. Yeah.
You're smiling today.
I am smiling.
Man, I got to tell you, you always complain about me sniffing and moving and making sounds. Mm-hmm. Allergies today are up through the peak.
Great. So I'll do a lot of editing.
I don't know. You can edit, you can leave it, but I'm just fair warning. I was teaching a class just now, man. It was
bad.
I could. I was out of breath.
Yeah,
just talking. Well, it's hard when it's so saturated, so congested. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel for you. I was bad last week. This week, so far, so good.
But
so yeah, I'm okay.
I medicate. I force myself to take some
meds. Uh-oh, I hope you don't pass out here.
Yeah, we'll see. But what's interesting about today is we have a returning guest.
Yes.
And there's a cool story. I forgot about this.
It comes up every once in a while.
But there's a cool story associated with this.
I don't know.
When we recorded on this guest last time.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. It was over 2 years. It was February of 21, right? You could not get into the office.
Yes.
And what did you do?
Well, let's pre-frame this a little bit, as you always like to.
Somehow you have a feeling that this is going to turn against me, but go for it.
No, it's not your fault. It's Ray Corona's fault. But what happened? So we used to do these remotely, right? You were at home. I was here at the academy in the office, and we did it all over Zoom. If you've been paying attention, or if you watch, you can see things are much different. I couldn't get in the office. It was locked. And the keys for the office were inside the office. Mm-hmm. They were sitting on the desk. Ray left for the evening the night before and locked the door behind him with the keys inside the room. Ray had his own key. So we went into panic mode, and it was like, oh, what are we going to do? And since then, you've done quite a few of these without me for various reasons. But that would have been the first, and you were like, no way am I doing this by myself. And we couldn't we weren't confident enough to ask our guests, okay, maybe can we postpone, blah, 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 things like that. So we were trying to cover it up. And the final outcome was that I had to kick the door down to get into the office to do the podcast, which was, I find quite ridiculous. But I tried picking the lock. I tried, the credit card trick. Yeah. None of that stuff was going to work. No.
At least we know you can't steal stuff or break into homes.
I still have a powerful front kick. Yes.
There is a video of that.
There is a video of it.
We are not going
No, we're not going to release it. No. But I thought, I'd kick the door and it would just pop open, but all the trim blew off and stuff went flying around the room. It was a disaster.
So when you're listening to this, and if you are here at the Academy, I want you to go to Gary as this releases and give him a pat on the back for a good job destroying the door.
And watch out for that front kick.
And if you are remote, not at the Academy, send Gary a message. Tell him good job. That's great. All right. Let's bring our guest in, Professor Gustavo Dantas. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. You guys are big time with multiple cameras and everything.
Listen, we stepped up. We learned a lesson after Gary had to kick. You didn't know about this, did you? I don't even remember.
No, we didn't bring it up. No.
And I would be totally fine to reschedule, though. You know what I mean? It can happen.
I know, but you know what? Fine. You were episode 36. Which we were rookies. We were terrible. I listened to the episode with you, the first one we did, and we were terrible. Not that we are amazing now, but we were terrible.
And no fault of our guest, that's for sure. That was just us.
I thought it was good though.
Yeah, I mean,
I mentioned to you, I listened again. I was working out last week. I'm like, let me listen, just have an idea of what I talked about because I didn't remember, and I was like, okay, it was fine. I didn't see anything wrong, and I bet the listeners don't like to, so it's all good.
Yeah, I suppose we are very critical of ourselves, and
we always are. Yeah, we always are our worst critics, right?
Yeah. So how have you been? Last 2 years? I mean, it's been a while since we had you on the show, and we had the phenomenal conversation back then. How things have been going?
Man, I can't complain. I got the academy here in Tempe, Arizona. For people don't know much about my work, I've been a tournament promoter. I started promoting in 1998. So we have events every 2 months in Arizona, and we created a really good system. We got a great group that I don't really need to be there at the event for the event happens. Kind of amazes me sometimes just when I look at it, being awake for like 36 hours before to make sure a tournament happen on time and be able to see like 12 mats going, official size and everything on time. But there was a lot of growing pains and learning, a lot of feedback, talking with the staff, and we got a great events in Arizona. So I think I feel like a lot of people in Arizona, they spoiled in a way if they've never been maybe out of town or experienced a lot of events. Of course, our events are not perfect, but we're always doing our best to keep improving. And podcasts, I've been doing a podcast since 2018. Last year and the year before, I slowed down with the one in English and I was doing more in Portuguese. And so I had only a few interviews last year. So kind of doing the opposite this year, doing more of English and less of the Portuguese. And with a nonprofit organization, being more active with that, with Jiu Jitsu Tribe. So always a lot of stuff going on.
You mentioned something interesting right before we started that you're very busy and you try to slow things down, but it doesn't always happen that way. What's the happy balance recipe, or is there one? Should there one be, a happy balance for all of us? Or how do you view this? Because I find myself very busy, and honestly, Gary and I, we talk about it often, but like I cannot sit still. Like I have to do stuff all the time, whether I like it or not. Even if it's a slower part of the week or a month, like I find stuff to do. Well, how do you see these on the other side?
Yeah, it's complicated to talk about work balance or whatever with people. Each one's going to have their own unique view.
Yeah.
I tell you what, when I start getting involved with especially high performance coaching, I'm not saying life coaching and stuff like that, not just tournament related mental coaching, I felt like I started to do better. And that was probably 2000, I think maybe 16, 17. And I started to do better as far as sleep. I was really bad for, I think, the big majority of my life. I struggled with just being a workaholic. That's all I knew. And I literally had to go through a lot of, I've been doing personal development since 2008, 2009, but I got to really get like more like hardcore into maybe 2012, a lot of therapies, retreats, and different things for me to realize how bad I was with my being a workaholic, and that I feel that we can adopt a lot of patterns, of course, from our parents or whoever we're around. Sometimes we can rebel against those patterns. But one of the main ones that I adopt from my mom was that, being a workaholic. And it was always like, I ain't got no time for that. There's like, she just needs to keep working in 2 jobs and single mom with 2 kids. And so in my mind, I would feel extremely, I don't know if any of the listeners maybe can relate with this to a point that have ever felt guilty that you're like taking a break? I mean, during the day, like, I shouldn't be taking a break. I shouldn't be producing. I should, So it took me a long time of a lot of kind of, personal development, a lot of internal work to start being at peace that it's okay to slow down. But that would be like going to bed way too late, waking up early, and now I'm dragging, and now I feel bad if I take a nap. So it was in a vicious cycle. So I felt like 2016, 17, I started doing better with, especially the coaching really helped me to be more aware of my sleep and my patterns, being more productive than just being busy, right? But we always have room to work, improve.
So you mentioned just now, something interesting, being busy versus being productive. And sometimes I think that translates into training sessions very easily, right? So like we have students that you might see even on the mat at the academy 6 or 7 times a week, multiple sessions sometimes, but sometimes you're noticing that their progression or their productivity is not as high as it might be. And then on the flip side, you have another student who's maybe, attending 3 or 4 classes a week, and their productivity is much, much, much different. Having jiu-jitsu being so difficult to measure often, right? When we try not to compare ourselves to other people, that topic often surfaces very, very often, very frequently, conversation between students and and instructors. How do you become more productive? And what's the right balance between training, overtraining, and so on? What's your view on that from that perspective?
With jiu-jitsu, it's so hard to say because now we involve athleticism, availability, and age, and some people pick up faster than others. I would say that I don't think I'm one of the type like, I pick up stuff fast. I wouldn't say that. I'd say that I have to kind of go over a bunch of times fairly slow the move to kind of see mechanically what we're trying to accomplish here. And then I can start to speed up. But I wouldn't say that I pick up fast. I just look at it and I do it. Not really. And I definitely need to, I can look at it, but I feel like I need to really touch and kind of put my hands on and feel the weight, feel the position. And it's interesting because I was telling my students last week, we go over topics, right? There's specific topics, and it was about 3 weeks, was related to half guard flat. You flatten your back, you're not a position that you want to be. Sometimes people get to that position, sometimes they're low on your hips, sometimes they're high. So we talk about different positions. So everything that we work top and bottom, saying like, guys, I'm showing like everything that I personally use. It doesn't mean there's the best thing around. This is what I know. And if the situation presents itself, I try to use. But I told her, I'm not going to just watch a move last night and then like, hey, guys, check this out. And I showed today, like, I haven't played with the move. I need to like see the patterns. What happens when this person pulls here? What happens when they put their weight this here? I need to feel the position before I actually share with my students to be like, does it make sense? Because sometimes some moves, maybe don't click too well, but you just need to really kind of experiment with it. And especially if you're an instructor, the suggestion is just not because someone's showing and like, yeah, let me show tomorrow. Like, no, feel the position, explore the position, do some specifics. And then from there, maybe if you choose to share with your students. But it's tough to say. It's so unique with jiu-jitsu. It's tough to say a formula. You know, it's I like to say that jiu-jitsu for the beginners. I don't know if anyone that is listening play guitar, but I say like imagine you learn how to play guitar and someone keeps smacking your hand while you're trying to play. You know what I mean? It's like jiu-jitsu, you're trying to do a move and someone is trying to like, hey, like, no, and you need to find a way to get around to play your song and do a move. So yeah, I don't think I have a recipe or, you know, what people should do. You know, it's so personal, so unique in jiu-jitsu.
But then if, you know, at this point you're interacting with thousands of people over the, you know, decades that you've been on the mat, and there's so many different people, so many different ways people analyze things and learn and study. And on top of all this, we are getting smarter, which what you are talking about, more athletic, you know, plus just education of jiu-jitsu is evolving essentially, right? So how do we find this recipe? How personally, like, how do I find what works best for me? How do I know how many times I should be on the mat? How do I know how many classes I should attend versus how many open sessions or open mats I should be on? Like how many drilling sessions? How much time I should really be in doing things? And, you know, this is becoming complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, but I feel that it's trial and error, right?
Yeah.
You just got to see like, oh, I think I trained too much this week. Or if you just got to really get the feedback, you know, your own feedback. I think one of the things that people don't, I think, respect much is just that maybe a cliche, but listen to your body. It's very true. You know, maybe someone say like, you got to train 6 days a week, or something like, dude, I can't move. Like, it doesn't work for me. Yeah, it doesn't work for everyone. And like learning how to connect things, or it takes time, dude. You know, jiu-jitsu, it's about pattern recognition. You know, you need to make the mistakes. You need to realize there are things that both of you and everyone's listening right now, there are things that not necessarily someone taught you to learn, because you're like, okay, every time I put my hand here, something bad happens. What if I don't put my hand here? Like, okay, that kind of solves a problem. So it's just pattern recognition. You need to get caught. Everyone, maybe tough to say everyone, but for the most part, you've been training for a long time. At some point, you got caught with a loop choke passing the guard. You're like, oh, it's open right here. I'm just gonna take this pass. And then you're like, that's a little trap. Oh, so you don't pass. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you need to get caught in certain situations to be able to recognize the pattern and go from there. And more I see like the analogies of like chess and jiu-jitsu, pattern recognition. You know, you move a piece, I move a piece. You know, like you move, I move. But I move doesn't mean like a big sweep. Sometimes a wrist rotation, that's a move. Like just a quick frame, that's a move. And I always tell my students, okay, especially in fundamentals class, and I say like, I might sound like a broken record, but you know, like I got to just repeat myself so many times with this. And like playing chess, imagine that you're the listener, say, you know, let's play chess. And this is the deal. I'm allowed to move twice in a row every play, and you're only allowed to move once. I go here and here, you move once. I go here and here. The chances of you getting the worst of it moving once are pretty high. It's like, unless maybe you're like so much more experienced than they are. But if you're not about the same level, you know, someone moves here, you need to address what they do. They move here, you need to consistently be like having that little battle going back and forth. You know, so if you I think just understanding the patterns in positional awareness, that's something that I push a lot to my students over and over. I have to talk about positional awareness, meaning people don't switch grips just because they feel like it or just for the hell of it. They have intentions, and usually the intentions are not good towards you. You know what I mean? They want to sweep you or going to pass you. Or they want to do something. So just be more mindful. And that's a very tough transition between white and blue that I feel it's because sometimes the white belt is playing their guard and they're so caught into like what I want to do. I want to do my move, ignoring completely what the other person is doing. And then sometimes they do the opposite. They're so caught up into what the other person is doing, they forget to do what they need to do. So getting the balance, I like to call the matrix, when things slow down and I'm doing my own thing and I'm looking what the other person is doing, takes time. And that's why I say jiu-jitsu is the ultimate multitask activity. You know what I mean? Because you got so much going on with arms and legs and your opponent. And that's why one of the most common answers people ask me, anything with positions, I always say like, well, it depends. For me, it depends. How you get out of the arm bar? It depends. There are different layers. Are they grabbing your arm or your arm is straight? Yeah. There are different layers. Yeah. Deeper they get those layers, more complicated it's going to be. Like, how'd you get out of the lapel? It depends. Are the system full set up already? They already made all the exchanges and they're in, or they just wrap their foot around. So all that kind of positional awareness, to see like people are switching grips, moving angles, doing whatever, you need to be noticing that. And of course, you see guys like in world-class jiu-jitsu doing this amazingly and fast, you know, do their own thing, watch what people are doing, changing directions, recognizing patterns, very quick and pulling the trigger. That's years of training.
Do you think that watching some of those professionals is actually playing against us at this point, especially if we are early on in that journey? And specifically, I'm interested in talking about like social media and other things on our phones when everything is so accessible today, right? It was not when we were starting, but oftentimes the conversations comes up. Hey, listen, I saw this move, you know, and it looks cool. I mean, it's flashy and it's entertaining and it's stimulating and all that. But the person who's watching it might not necessarily be ready for the complexity that's not even visible to the human eye, right? So, like, do you think that these clips and videos and other things are really playing against the students because the expectations are so high at this point?
Yeah, it's tough to say playing against because it depends, but there's some people that, yeah, like you said, maybe a white belt watching some of the things. I'm like, man, I don't. It's cool to watch. And there's one thing that I always mention to my students. There's a big difference in watching jiu-jitsu and studying jiu-jitsu.
Thank you.
There's a big difference in that. There are times I don't study jiu-jitsu every day. I may just watch a clip, but not because if you want to like study jiu-jitsu, you need to study the boring parts of the match, the almost advantages, the almost moves. You learn so many moves just from someone like maybe getting almost advantage, meaning I'll be like, if that guy didn't put his hand right at that moment, that move was going to work. Like nice positional awareness. He recognized. So it's nice to look at someone's highlighter and just see over and over someone just doing all kinds of, but like what happened before? Like how was the setup? How was the positioning for the person? Oh, he got like the guy, just see he got swept over the top. What about his posture? What did he do in the beginning of the position? So that's the studying. It's always like finding the root of the problem, just kind of backtracking a little bit and let's see what is leading to a possible move. So studying jiu-jitsu, it's not the most exciting thing because you're going to have to watch a lot of boring stuff. All the, you know, again, you're watching a chess match that sometimes they move a piece, clock, they hit a little clock. I need to move a piece, clock, and then sometimes it gets fast, boom, clock, and both back and forth, and then pauses, and then they think, and then go again, clock. So for you to be able to recognize those, it's just years of training. So it's tough, yeah, for some white belts. or some beginners, yeah, I don't think they will relate. It's cool, you know, say like, wow, he jumped here and he did that, but like it like I said, yeah, it's tough to relate. I don't know if you mentioned this. I'm just wondering, what if like they study maybe like older matches? Do you think maybe it'll help a little bit? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's a different perspective. I think, first of all, I think jiu-jitsu has evolved in the last 5-10 years so much. It's ridiculous. If you watch Worlds or Pan Ams today versus 5 or 10 years ago, I think it's black and white. Right? Just from the strategies, just even physicality of it. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. It's a almost different sport, almost. Like if you look at it, compare them side by side. And then we're not talking about 20 years ago, where, you know, you look at like World's first Pan Ams way back in Brazil, you know, that, you know, it's completely different. Who was I talking about? Draculino was talking about? Yeah, I think it was Draculino who was talking about it. Like, you know, way back in the day, it like if you wanted to see your opponent or you see anything new, you went to a tournament. If you missed the tournament for whatever reason, you just didn't learn. That's it. Unless somebody brought it back to the academy and like you were trying to unpuzzle this whole thing, put the puzzle together. Today, I mean, literally everything is available in my mind. Well, everything is available online.
Does this go back to what we were originally talking about doing work or being busy? Because I think that unfortunately right now there's so much to keep you busy where you're not actually doing the work, where you're trying this, you're trying that. We talk about this a lot. Mm-hmm. You're jumping back and forth from, you know, I want to work on half guard. Now I want to work on spider guard. Now I want to work on this, and all these things aren't working. And it's because you're busy. You're not working. You're just busy. Mm-hmm. You know, when you give people homework of you can only play bottom for the next month, or you're not allowed to submit anybody for the next month, you can see that initial reaction is, why? I don't want to do that. And I think it's because we're now slowing that person down to a point where they're going to have to focus on what's truly important in order to do the work and not just be busy.
So, Professor, how do you focus? If you are, you know, if you have a student who is on a newer in a newer chapter of this long and humongous journey of jiu-jitsu, you know, what do you tell them as far as focus? How do they focus? What should they focus on? You know, how long should they work on specific things? You know, do we multitask? Do we work on multiple things at the same time?
I see jiu-jitsu as different systems, right? So you have everything jiu-jitsu or systems all the ways in and out, meaning a side mount, it's a system. You need to understand how do I'm not even talking about the passing, but let's say like you're ready in the side mount. How do I maintain? What are the common submissions that I can hit from here? What are the common patterns of defense? What I'm going to deal with it. Now, on the other hand, when you're on bottom, you're like, okay, what are the common attack that comes from top? How do I get out of here? So you need to understand in and out. And then you go into the mount. Okay, now we're dealing with a different system. How do you maintain the mount? How can possibly get out? What are the common escapes that I'm dealing with? And if your button goes on and on. Spider guard. Okay, what are the common patterns here? What are the concepts of spider guard? So when you look at it, like now, we cannot keep up as far as guard system goes. We can't keep up with the amount of guards that are out there. You know what I mean? Every week there's like a new guard and there's a new name. And I'm like, fuck, man, I can't keep up with all this. The new guards or whatever. But the reality is, if you're in a game, jiu-jitsu is a game, okay? Whether people realize it or not, it's a game. And people, let's talk about, even if it's not competition, you know, just rolling in general, you know, you have a system that you feel pretty comfortable, that you know a lot of options, you understand the patterns of that specific system, and the other person may be a good player. They actually good jiu-jitsu, but they're not familiar with that specifically formation. You're going to get caught in a trap. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just so many systems. I mean, you see this all the time with any system. Could be like right now, someone incredible jiu-jitsu, but maybe they never play with whatever, 50-50. And the other one maybe doesn't have as many option, not as knowledgeable as the other one, but they are a lot more knowledgeable on that specific system and different entries to find himself on that system that he wants to play, you know? So
So how much time should we spend on each system? Let's just like dig into this a little bit. So we pick a guard, whatever it is, spider guard. How much time should I spend on this? Should I be a master of it? Should I get an introduction to it? Like, at which point do I move on to the new system?
It's so tough to say. But for example, you look, I have a few people that, some names that I have studied jiu-jitsu, right? So I decided, okay, I'm going to study jiu-jitsu. When I look back, probably the guy that I studied the most was Leandro Lo. That for over 10 years, that was a guy that, because when you look at his game and his systems, he does not have a huge variety. You know, he's just extremely all the systems that he plays usually have like about 3 to 4 cards on his deck from each. Of course, you get, because you have like 3 or 4 cards that you can use and you can rotate. And then there's sometimes very specific positions that people need to be in. Meaning, for example, you're developing a system of spider guard. And then people say, hey, what's your best move from spider guard? It's like, well, it depends. Are both knees down? Or a knee up? A knee up and knee down? Are they standing? Are they leaning forward? Do they have posture? Like, is it the right leg forward and I'm leaning to my right? Or is that the left leg forward? All that leads to different. So you need different cards for different plays. Because what happened is, when I was a blue belt, of course, this is like the early 90s. Of course, there are like not as many guard systems. There's not as many options. And I always like to play classic, like open guard, both sleeves, you know, and a little here and there. But like, there is limited options, and sometimes I'll be waiting for the moment. Oh, when this guy leads with this leg here, when he does this, I get this move. And when he doesn't? Like, where do you go? So learning how to audible. I like to I do a little analogy with American football and jiu-jitsu. That's all you guys want to hear. Brazilian talking about American football. But
this is what things get better.
Yeah, based on all my Madden experience, right? So, but when you think about it, to become a quarterback, you need to master your playbook. And your playbook, will have all kinds of different formations, split back, shotgun, all the different positions. They're all the key points to maintain the positions of the team. You see everyone is lined up. Okay, we're all set. This is the formation you're going to use. Is that shotgun? Is that where we're going? Snap the ball. Boom. Look around. What do we got? Oh, you open. Boom. Go. And sometimes you look around, there's nothing happening. You don't like what is going on. I'm like, you know what? The shotgun's not going to work, y'all. Let's go audible. Change a different formation, do something else. And I feel that in jiu-jitsu, you need to master your playbook. You need to master formations. You need to master the mount, the back, the side. There are formations that, whether you like or you don't, you need to master all the ways in and out. How do I maintain? How do I get out? And specific guards that you choose to do so. And more plays you have, you cannot have the same play. Okay, we're going to play shotgun, and then no, you're going to run to the side, and then we're going to run this play over and over. Chances are it's not going to work. You need to have multiple plays. And that's when it comes in jiu-jitsu, like, okay, both knees down, knee up, kneeling forward. So you need to have different cards for different specific answers that the person have. And if there's, and it's very important to understand the key points of each system. If you're a quarterback, you're looking around, you're about to start the play, and you see your alignment just standing, just hanging there like, yo, dude, get in position, because you're going to compromise the success of the play if you're not properly aligned. And in jiu-jitsu, there'll be the grip that is just here hanging to the side to be like, yo, dude, do something with it. Like, can I get away with it? Sure. Is that NFL against high school? Sure. Is that a black belt against white belt? Yeah, you go without your hands. But when we talk about same kind of level, I'm not even saying higher level than you. I'm saying kind of same level, it will compromise your play. So I do my best to be, at least share the idea of being as systematic as possible. Understanding that you're playing a guard, whatever happened, they got out of switching. They're like, hey, Audible, you're in a different system right now. What are the options of the system? If you're going to go back to the Sims, the other one you're playing, that's okay. But just understand that every time you Audible, you switch plays, at least in Jiu-Jitsu, someone can take advantage of that. Meaning, if you think about it, like everyone who's listening right now, maybe think about it, and you guys, you think about your last training session that someone passed your guard. I'm like, okay, that wasn't fun. Someone passed my guard. I got stuck in there. So usually, that's what comes to my mind. Usually, if someone's going to pass your guard, number one, maybe a lack of key points. Maybe there's a grip missing. Maybe your leg didn't put in a proper way. Someone saw the little opening. They capitalize on that. Boom. Number two, maybe you do have all the grips, all the key points are ready to go. But now the person was able to break the grip, get rid of that key point, and then initiate their process. And then the third one, that it's what world class is all about, catching people in transition. That's why, like, you see, like, sometimes, like, oh man, some matches are so boring in the black belt division at high level, man, because there are a lot of windows are closed. There are not a lot of opportunities. They have their key points like really set, and then sometimes they need to, like, this is not they switch to a different system. If that transition is not made like smoothly, someone will step out, someone back up, someone get under, you know what I mean? Something will happen on that transition. And that's what its work class is about. Because passing someone's guard when it's missing key points is not yay for you. That's your duty. You know what I mean? That's what it's supposed to do. If something's missing, like, dude, he doesn't have no grip, like, that's your job. You shouldn't get a highlight because of that. But now you go in, boom, I got rid of a key point and pass. Okay, now we're talking. I like it. Like, that's good. And catching people in transition. And that's when I study. I try to show my students that, like, the boring parts is that. Catching people in transition. And you need, first of all, you need to have someone that is better than you for you to feel what that is. Like, oh, I was switching my grip and I got hit with that transition. Because if you don't, you always get away with that kind of stuff. And people say, like, oh, I do this all the time. And I say, against who? Like, can you do it against the lower level guys? Sure. Like, someone that knows more than you? Absolutely not. They will see it. They will explore it. You know what I mean? So I feel that understanding key points of position. So the question was, how long should I stay in each one? It always been, how competent do you want to be on that specific system? There's a book, The Art of Learning. It talks about this, about how competent would you like to be and whatever it's talking about. For people who don't know, Josh Wainsky, the guy, there's a movie, the chess movie called In Search of Bobby Hoffman. And so he was, for people who don't know, he was a chess prodigy at 5 or whatever, and incredible story. And the dude is a jiu-jitsu black belt under Marcelo Garcia. So he got involved with Tai Chi competitive aspect of it. I didn't even know that thing exists, but he talks about, like, the art of learning. How competent do you want to be? You want to be okay? You want to be good? You want to be decent? You want to be the best that ever lived? It's going to depend, like, depending on your goals or how competent you want to be, there will be extra hours you have to do, so depending on how competent you want to be in that specific system. But as soon as you feel like you know what, I have some good, like, options on your game, maybe you rotate well 3 or 4 moves that and you're efficient and you understand how to avoid to get in trouble, you're good. But when you see, like, a lot of Leandro Lo's pass, when you study him, dude, he rotated his shit so well, so smooth. Like, the pattern recognition of his passing game is just like, he wasn't doing like a bunch of different passes. No, he's just like, I'm very good at these like 3-4 specific passes, and it just rotate him, just blast them. You know what I mean? Very well. And on bottom, he had his specific, guard system that he liked, and he usually does this here. When the guy shut it down, he does this. When he put the right leg forward, he does this, and when there's the left, he does that. You know what I mean? So he just had it dial like pretty much down. Like, of course, the guy was incredible. But that's why he was my best guy to study about blitzing people and getting like transition, catching people in transition. Yeah, probably one of the best I've ever seen with that.
Well, and if you look at athletes in general, I mean, these patterns are very, very visible if you study them. I mean, you mentioned Andre Lowe, but Marcelo Garcia, similar, Hajo Gracie, similar, Buchacha, similar. I mean, we can go generations back and forth. Take it outside of jiu-jitsu, look at swimming or running. I mean, all these experts, they do something very, very well, and it's not that they know everything. They just know how to bring you into that trap that they are so good at. You will lose every time the moment you step into their domain. And that's the highest level of expertise, right? That's the mastering of the little system that they have. And it's so visible when you watch them, and it's almost effortless, like at that point,
It kind of comes to what you mentioned about, I don't go to tournaments as often anymore. Maybe I probably this year only go to the Master Worlds or whatever. Last year was at Pens in 2022. And the thing that caught me, I've seen more my attention, is the word that he used a few minutes ago, athleticism. From blue to black. I'm like, dude, because what was a great thing with Leandro? His conditioning. Like his ability to keep up the pace. So he has his specific patterns that he'll go and he rotate and just keep blasting. So you go once, they follow, you go again, they follow, go once. You do 20 times and go one more, and then you don't follow. Hey, that goes downhill. You know what I mean? All it takes for those guys is just like, don't move your piece like in chess just once for you to see what happens. You know what I mean? Just once. So not everyone. So for you to be able to keep up the speed chess that they play, man, it's conditioning, athleticism. You know what I mean? It's not such a methodical here, and I get here and I get close, like they are, but they're like, usually that's how it goes. Like you have your positioning. Leandro is a classic example of that. He is right there. He's playing his base, and then suddenly either he breaks a grip or step over a leg. Basically, either he gets rid of a key point or someone getting transition. And then he starts boom, 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 boom. And people are trying to catch up. If they catch up, he pauses. Pause. Okay, breathe. Let me look at the key points. I need to get rid of something before I blitz again. Got rid of. Boom. Hit the gas. Go. Boom, boom, boom. That's why I tell my students there's a big difference in like blitzing and spazzing. Okay. So spazzing is your opponent has all the grips and you're like, you're spazzing and you're not going fast. You're not doing anything. You're just spazzing, wasting energy. At the moment that you break a grip and you intentionally move fast, knowing where you're going, now you're blitzing someone, which of course it takes time and is not that easy. It definitely takes time to recognize and conditioning to back this up too.
Yeah, that's often, I think, a large conversation between students and then even instructors, the spazzing and blitzing and really finding the fine line of being purposeful versus just moving and burning the energy without any intent or any goal whatsoever. And that's a very fine line of finding that reasoning and being really strategic. Because that's, really, really what it is. Do you think that the physical part of jiu-jitsu, as it has developed over the years, is taking away from the technical aspect that we've seen for many decades up to this point?
No, I just see the combination of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the level is getting so high. Like, because especially for this explosive style of like, looking for holes, getting rid of key points and blasting, you need to have the conditioning. So guys are getting, man, you see some kids, I'm talking about gray belts, you know what I mean? Yellow belts. And like, my God, I don't even know how to do that thing, you know? And like, they just go in, the kids already like reading key points, you know? And so if you can hit the gas, keep up, you know, God bless you, go ahead. So I don't think it's going to take away. I think it's just unified, you know, like very good positional awareness, recognizing lack of key points, getting rid of key points, addressing transitions, and conditioning to back it up. You know, there's some incredible guys. If you get guys like, you know, like Tyna is incredible with that. And he got incredible. I mean, that dude is flawless. You know, it's like an art watching that dude. Really. It's incredible. Like, again, for someone to survive with him, they need to consistently address every little, that speed chest with that boy, just like boom, clock, boom, clock. You go once again, you don't clock, you don't go, and he go like, oh no, I'll pass this one. You go, hey, nah, you know, it's gonna go downhill.
That stuff scares me sometimes when I watch like these yellow belts at like Penn's Kids or something. The yellow belts, they are literally like 11. And sometimes I scratch my head. I was like, whoa, just rewind here a little bit, because this was just next level stuff. And they're not even teens yet. They're like, they're not even juveniles yet. And it's ridiculous the level of some of these young kids, level of jiu-jitsu some of these young kids have. But yet, you know what? At the same time, this is the next generation. This is where jiu-jitsu is going to be, and you know, we should embrace it, and good for them. I mean, it's much better than they are on the mat than doing other things, and you know, that there's so many better opportunities out there for kids, and it's so good to see some of them become so good. You know.
Yeah, but like in the early days or in the 90s or more jiu-jitsu, there's no so much conditioning, you know. You have some like exceptions, I'm gonna say athletes, fast-paced guys that come to my mind was like Leo Vieira, Shaolin's, like guys that was like a fast-paced dude that you need to find a way to like, man, let me rep this guy in a lasso, let me try to put him in a close guard, let me try to slow them down, you know what I mean? Nowadays there are like a bunch of those. I'm saying like fast-paced fellas, you know what I mean, and girls, you know, of like not just here. Back in the day, we didn't see, there's some guys that stood out with conditioning. These are two that come to my mind in the 90s, you know, especially because I trained with Shaolin. So nowadays you see, again, comes back the word you use, athleticism, you know, like, dude, the blue belt division, I mean, for you to get into a Final Four of like worlds, Brazilian national, dude, you need to be a pretty good athlete.
Oh, you
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not only jiu-jitsu wise, I'm saying like you're a pretty athletic person.
Well, and some of these, I mean, this is the mind-blowing part for me. Some of these blue belts are, you almost have to consider them professional. The way how they train, what they do, everything is targeted. And this is a blue belt level. We're not talking about brown or black.
Yeah, but it's, you know, when you think about it, when you're really rational about this, so like, oh, he's just a blue belt. Okay, he's been trained since he was 5 years old. He's 18 now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know.
You put like 13 years of training. It's just a belt that is there, but like the level, you see this in like skateboarding. There's a Brazilian girl, Raissa, the girl took second in the Olympics, 12 years old. You know what I mean? So you're like, what? And also that's, like you see more and more younger, and that's something that's been happening more and more, like younger 18, 19-year-old, because they've been trained for over 10 years, competing their whole lives in Hungary.
Well, but then how do you compare this like apples to apples? So you have a young 16 or 17-year-old who's a blue belt, and they've been on the mat for, I don't know, 10, 13 years, right? Whatever. And then you have somebody who's 45 and they spend a couple years on the mat and they have the blue belt too. I mean, is this really comparable? Is this really fair in a sense?
No.
Yeah, my question was going to be, how do you explain all this to the hobbyist?
Right.
You know, how do you get that? How do you keep them from being discouraged of, you know, I'm 38, I'm 46, and here comes this, you know, we have, you know, 14-year-old kids in the adult class, you know, and I can't compete. I can't keep up with, let's say, is a better word than compete. I can't keep up with this kid. How do you frame them so that they don't get discouraged?
I don't think, because I think we get so attached, like sometimes when we think about belts, right? But wrestling, there's no belts. If you think about it,
Right.
it'd be like, oh, he's a wrestler. Okay, he's a high school wrestler, he's a college wrestler, he's Olympic level. You know what I mean? There'll be different, like, or there'll be different levels. The thing in jiu-jitsu, like in a regular class, we'll have, many different, sometimes in the same ideal to have what, like in a competition class would be ideal. And I don't think is the problem is there's a concept that I do my best to share. I forgot the name of the author, but Dan Sullivan, maybe I can't remember, but it's the gain and the gap. So the gain, the gap, I use this often. I use more with my white belts. That is more like, imagine you start a journey and you're like in a desert and you're looking towards the sunset and you just keep walking, and then like, dude, like no matter what I do, I don't get there. It's just consistently frustrating. No matter what happens, you just keep going there. That means we're just focusing on that gap of where you at to where you want to be, instead of looking into focusing on the gain, where you started, look where you're now. So the transfer jiu-jitsu is that the best analogy that I can say, one is respect your journey and kind of like the mind your own business, kind of like respect your own journey. And I say, like, imagine how to be a match to, let's say this person's been training for 6 months. And I always, every time I get the same reaction of like, they smile and they laugh and say, like, tell me this, how would it go a match against your first day you against you now? How that match would go? And they always laugh and smile, like, yeah, it's like, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, don't forget how far you walked here. You know what I mean? Some people started this walk a long time before you. And yes, we need to take consideration age. Yes. I mean, I'm 48 right now. Can I keep up, with some of those kids? No, if I do, I need to sit out for like 3 rounds because I'm like, like in a mat, like laying down, like, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? I might give like 6 minutes of hell to anybody, but after that, if I'm going to be able to stand up, I don't know. But like, I know that I can keep up, just me. Maybe other 40-year-olds can do it, God bless, but that's not my focus. But for everyone, I always mention, like, dude, respect your progress. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when you see like the world of Instagram watching everyone, but this guy here, this age, he does this, does that. But I always do my best to share with them, like, just focus on the game, just focus on how much you like. And yes, there'll be younger people. You see, this is in like every sport. There's one point that you can, I watched, there's a recent, I don't know if you guys watch it, there's a recent HBO documentary about Shaq.
Yes.
Have you seen this one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really cool. So you see, like, he was the most dominant dude in freaking NBA probably ever, as far as dominant. And there's one point that he was like, oh man, I just not keeping up. I'm not jumping as high. You know what I mean? So that acceptance, it's rough. You know what I mean? Accept that is like, I'm not able to keeping up. And I'm sorry, but, age is going to hit us, everyone. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah. Who was this? I remember we recently talked about somebody talking about wear and tear, right? It's not.
Yeah, a few people. I think I know Bernardo talked about it. It's the mileage,
Bernardo.
right?
Yeah, it's the mileage, right?
Yeah.
It's not the wear and tear, but the mileage. It's like how long you've been on the mat, not how hard you've been training, but how long you've been on the mat. What's the wear and tear? How much miles have you put on? Somebody training once a week for 10 years is very different than somebody training 7 days for
world championships all the time, right? And just getting brutalized.
Right. And at some point we all, it all catches up with us. And even Michael Phelps, recently I watched an interview with him. He talked about, that mental state the moment you step off the competition or the high performance pedestal, if you will, and you kind of let everything relax, that's when it really hits you. Like, even though it might be a year later, you are not the same person. You're mentally and physically, you're not the same. And here's an interesting fact. I didn't know this until I listened to this. For I think he said 10 or 12 years nonstop, he trained without a day off, 365 days a year for literally all the Olympics that he went through. First day off, he took off when he retired. I mean, that's mind-blowing in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway, these are the guys who changed the world. These are the guys who accomplished things who nobody has ever done. And this is what you talked about. It's like, where's your goal? What do you want to be? How good do you want to be? Do you want to be here, or do you want to change the world? And amount of work will really depend on how good you want to be. I mean, the level of expertise. There's all layers.
Yeah.
We know you are super busy. You, excuse me. You have your tournaments going on. You have, obviously you're teaching in an academy and great organization. And then you are doing a nonprofit that we do want to talk about this. Talk about this a little bit. What's the purpose of Jiu Jitsu Tribe?
So the idea, it started in 2010.
Yeah.
Always had a desire to, always had me, especially now officially, I'm 48. I have lived 24 years of my life in Brazil, 24 in the United States. And
wait a minute, pause. Does that make you, are you still, do you still consider yourself foreign, or are you fully Americanized?
That's a tricky question.
It depends, right, on the situation. Just like jiu-jitsu.
I'll tell you flat out, it depends on the situation. I'm still foreign, and I'm keeping that card. I don't care how long I live in this country.
He pulls that out all the time. Every little mistake. Anytime I catch Thomas on anything, he's like, it's because I'm foreign. It's because I'm foreign.
Yeah. It's tough to say. Like, of course, I've been living here for half of my life, and I love the United States. I think, man, it's such an incredible place to live, and especially when you travel around, you see, like, man, sometimes it kind of bugs me a little bit. Some people have never left the country. Sometimes they complain a little bit. Is it perfect? No country is perfect. We have issues with, politicians and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But that's an incredible place to live, dude. There's some some people in some real rough situations as far as, like, I don't know what's your, especially for the listeners too, you got to always think about, what's my number one value? What's your value? What do you value most? For me, my number one value is freedom of choice. Not everyone has freedom of choice in many countries. No. You know what I mean? Like, so like, you just can't do that because we just don't do that. Well, what do you mean? No, so just having this freedom of choice, you know what I mean? It's really, it's incredible. But anyway, so the idea is to inspire, impact, improve lives in impoverished communities, utilizing jiu-jitsu as a personal social development tool. You guys know how much jiu-jitsu have changed your life, and students who see this all the time. And I'm going to have a question for you and for all the listeners. Do you feel the world could be a better place if more people train jiu-jitsu? What do you think?
I think so.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think you've asked. So I think if you ask anybody who loves jiu-jitsu, the answer is going to be yes, right?
But I'd like to take a different approach, though. Is I feel that anytime people find something of value that they want to put their effort into that does change their life for the better, no matter what it is, whether it's athletics, whether it's the arts, whether it's giving to somebody else, and they put forth effort into getting good at it so that they can share it, it makes the world a better place. Yeah. And so, obviously our answer to your question is yes, but, so let's do it. Let's use it. But, hopefully if maybe jiu-jitsu is not for you, find something else that gives you that satisfaction that we have.
Do you think that jiu-jitsu the world could be a better place with everybody train jiu-jitsu?
I feel that you guys know, it's such an incredible personal development tool. You know, so many people that come to your school and thinking like, I want to get in better shape, I want to learn how to defend myself, but now they're staying because of the mental, the emotional aspect, the community aspect. You know, so yeah, that's something about jiu-jitsu, that one-on-one interaction, you know, like that does something to people, right? And the issue is, yes, it could be a better place, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't know. They're not even aware of the existence of jiu-jitsu, or they cannot even afford. So the premise with the mission that we have with Jiu Jitsu Tribe is that to be able to introduce jiu-jitsu to people that probably don't know the existence or can't afford it. So we use two different routes. Number one is we do a partnership with like mental health related organizations, right? I did one we have one here in Arizona with this organization called Resilient Health. So kids with anxiety disorder, depression, and so forth. And they already have like a mentor that work with them. And so this is a partnership with Arizona Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu League. So we talk with the school to give like a 6-month sponsorship membership. So they have a mentor, someone that is working with them and utilizing jiu-jitsu as like a therapy, a form of therapy. So the school offers, just gives a gi, not gives, but it's the school, because the kids stop, you know, the school gets it back. But you given a chance to one kid. We did this pilot for the first time in my school a few years ago, and it worked really well. It was awesome, the transformation. However, the biggest issue that we found was the logistics. You know, this place was far. And so we decided to kind of do the partnership with the Arizona JJ League and say, like, who are the schools that would be willing to donate one to one kid? You don't have to check. You just, in 3 months, you come in, you check in, make sure that he's coming to class and engage and it's working. And then after 6 months, we decide what to do. If you want to renew, if the kid wants to train, but just give him the shot of training. So giving the opportunity, a lot of them, they never even heard of, the parents heard of jiu-jitsu, and the transformations are incredible, as you guys already know. So this is one approach that you have. The other approach is supporting social projects that offer jiu-jitsu classes for free. Unfortunately, in the United States, we don't have as many. There's one actually in Arizona called Higher Ground, as an after-school program. Incredible. Jensen Nazarias, I would love you guys to interview him. He's putting jiu-jitsu in a school district in Tucson, Arizona. Very knowledgeable guy. Incredible what he's been doing for the community. So we've been supporting him for the organization for over 10 years. And most of the programs that we found end up being in Brazil. We have a new one with the Checkmat in Cameroon, but I end up that a lot of them are in Brazil. So I get opportunity to travel, go see the places and visit and see the reality. So, and one of the main difficulties of those programs are the coaches. The programs end up ending because many times the coaches they're all volunteers, and sometimes they need, like, dude, I need to get another job. Yeah. And that's it. The program ends. So one of the things that we start focusing more in the past couple of years, working on sustainability, to be able to kick some money to the coach to at least to keep the program going. And we do sometimes construction, buying mats, or we have a partnership with Browse that we're making geese, producing geese for social projects. So we're trying to do a little bit of everything to keep this going and doing the best. When I see any kind of jiu-jitsu nonprofit, I use my platform, my podcast, to promote and interview them. If they're using all the there are not that many jiu-jitsu nonprofit organizations. Guardian Gym, Guardian Project is one that have been supporting them for a long time too. They do a great job, and they have a few schools spread out in U.S. Most of them are regular schools, but they do have a scholarship for some kids, which is pretty cool too. But the idea is to give a chance to introduce jiu-jitsu and use jiu-jitsu as a personal social development tool. In Brazil, I mean, you guys probably heard of how many kids came out of, and I'm not saying that they need to be competitors, But how many kids now live abroad, live in the United States, and live in all over the world because of jiu-jitsu competition? They had nothing to be like, yo, that's it, man. Is that, and that's a big difference. People always ask, do you think the United States, or are they going to pass Brazil, as far as like having the talent? I'm like, well, Brazil has something that many kids here don't have, which is necessity. And then necessity is a hell of a motivation. You know what I mean? When you're like, yo, dude, is it a crime, or are you going to just work in something for the rest of your life? You're not going to leave the favela here, or that's jiu-jitsu. And they go all in. They go all in, so that extra push, that's what make like incredible champions. You see, there's countless world champions that they came from social projects, and they found him, and they found the right people to support, and that's it. They're doing their thing, and now many of them don't compete anymore, but they have their own school and in Europe and Australia and United States. So jiu-jitsu is such an incredible tool for that kind of inclusion that they would never, you see like so many of them, like when they're saying to their kids, like, or their blue belts, and the next thing they were invited to go to a house or to a birthday party that they would never be in a different neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like little, like maybe things that you take for granted, they get exposed to so many more things, that they see that there's so much more in life than just my impoverished community. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that those unfortunate circumstances creates a irreplaceable drive for some of these kids? Meaning in a sense of they don't have opportunities. They have one. And that opportunity is to get out. And in order for that to achieve, we need to do this, whatever that is. And that creates this huge drive and motivation. I feel like oftentimes when we talk to the guests, especially who talk to us about similar topics, there were so many, good jiu-jitsu, phenomenal jiu-jitsu champions who came up from a very, unfortunate beginnings. They didn't have some of these opportunities. Do you think that creates a lot of drive for these kids?
Yeah. There's nothing more motivating than necessity.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
However, you do have exceptions too. And because sometimes there's someone that comes from, and I respect so much that when sometimes you have someone that comes from a great family that don't need all this grind, and they're doing it and they achieve it. And some people will say like, oh yeah, with money. Like, no. There you see this, and like, it happens, like even like it's tough to compare, but what I'm saying is not everyone, because they come from a good, I was watching something on Kobe Bryant. By the time his dad, play, like he had a good condition. He wasn't broke by the time he was a kid. You know what I mean? He wasn't broke. His dad had a, good condition, play professional basketball and stuff. And the dude was just, dude, it's different. Like that was him. That was the way he was wired, so whether he had money or not, he was going to make it. And so some people are just wired that way. God bless him that he had, like support to be able to do certain things. Because if you have that combination, there's some kid that had a good position and is wired that way, whoo, that's awesome. That's incredible. Get to travel, get to compete, and, and paying the price and doing all that. Unfortunately, that's, some people just like in poker, like the life scenario, that not everyone come with like, great cards necessarily. You know what I mean? Like you got to do what you can with the cards that you have in your hand, and let's go. And
yeah, it's like they often say that the end result of life is like a perfect storm of what you were born, plus the hard work that you're going to put in, plus the circumstances and a little bit of luck all throughout your entire life. And if that recipe, creates, is in the right place at the right time, then, you have a chance to actually achieving what some great things,
Yeah. In Brazil, most of them don't come, the big majority, right? Don't come, the one that succeed don't come so much from that, background. I'm talking about like maybe get some, maybe middle class, sort of like the family help does okay, but like not that much, or lower middle, and you got the kids that's it, man. So our goal is to try. Our goal is not with the competition. We don't go and support kids to go compete. It's not exactly what we do, right? We have done this before, but what happened is we give money to, there's a tournament. Okay, here's the registration. Yeah. And a year later, like, okay, yeah, we're closing the program. Why? We have no money, and then we can pay for this and that. And then I'm like, so that's when I really click. Dude, it doesn't do any good help them to compete if they don't have sustainability. So number one is like, can they keep up the program? Number one, because from that program, a very small percentage, if any, will really like, boom, succeed. To be able to find like the different ones, like you guys know about Jose Aldo's story,
sure,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he, so he's a personal friend too, and I had the opportunity to be in a corner with him in many fights back when he was in the WC. So I used to help with the translation and stuff like that. That dude moved to Rio with nothing, like nothing. He just went his ticket, like nothing. He lived at the school, like lived on a mat, and people had like one meal a day. You know what I mean? And then they had to close that gym because it was turning more professional stuff. So he started living in a favela. One of his friends opened up the door for him. He went there. So this dude, it's like, that is it, man. So to put the amount of work he did, so he's my idol in MMA, just especially because I know his story is so close, and see what that dude did, and his mental strength is just from a different planet. And to be able to be, for so long, for 10 years without losing. I mean, what the guy was able to do from nothing, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Well, and oftentimes they are the inspiration, right? These are the guys we look up to, but the amount of work that they've put into what they have achieved, it's sometimes unthinkable. And most of the time, we don't even know the amount of work they've put into it. They are the only ones who really know the true story behind
Absolutely.
it. So, it's this is why we don't judge, at least I try not to, book by its cover, right? We all got our personal stories. We all got our personal struggles. So how can people find more information about the fabulous organization that you have created for, over a decade, 2 decades now, right? You said, no,
2010.
Yeah,
2010, yeah. So jiujitsutribe.org, and on Instagram at Jiu Jitsu Tribe. I was in Brazil last month recording a little mini series, just going into different neighborhoods. Some of the programs that we support, and we interview the coach and get like 2 stories of like the power of jiu-jitsu in impoverished communities and different topics. So we did one day was related to the cartel, like drug related, one from drug addiction to one guy was like from drug dealing in Brazil. It's not like maybe the drug dealing people think just some middle class dude that just sells some little thing. No, we're talking about some serious, like, yeah, it's bad. And then one day we did special needs. One day we did talk about competition. And one day was mental health. So it was always like an interview with a coach, and then 2 stories with the parents or whatever, and showing the change of the impact of jiu-jitsu in communities like that it's incredible, those stories. So we created this program called Adopt a Social Project, which is basically it could be individuals, but for business, schools, associations that want to choose for 12 months to support a team and help with their sustainability. Because again, that is the problem. And basically they commit to $300 per month. We're like, wow, that's a lot of money. Like, yeah, it's kind of like for some people, 2 students per month, 1.5, it depends, but like the impact that you make. And we keep in contact to be able to keep, of course, help to promote the business as well, to give some props to the business. But that's one of the things we do. And we're going to start doing some gi drives, but brand new. So this partnership with Browse is awesome because right now we just made a 150 gis, which is not easy to maintain a nonprofit, to come up with the money for that. And of course, Browse cannot just give us the money, can give us like a better rate, to get not just a cheap gi. Like, no, this is a quality custom made Jiu Jitsu Tribe Browse gi with the logo of the project. So we're doing three projects, 50 gis in each one. And the idea with the gi, we just have our first batch. We're going to have 3 batches per year. Every gi that you buy, you're generating a gi for a kid from a social project. So it's pretty cool. The idea of the first batch will arrive in Brazil in May. So it'd be cool to let you show like, hey, because of your gi, this kid here is getting this gi. So it's measurable in a way that you see where your money is going. So it's a cool thing to see. So we do a lot of different programs to try to fundraise. I'm on my way to Hawaii on Friday. I'll be doing a seminar at Zapatero Jiu Jitsu. I've done some fundraisers there before. So most of the seminars that I do nowadays, they are all nonprofit related. They're all fundraisers. So usually I try not to travel more than twice a month for seminars. So I have right now March, April, May, June. So June I haven't scheduled yet. For the next 3 months, I have like seminars every other week or so, and doing fundraisers to keep doing what we're doing and try to support as many projects we can.
Yeah, and well, you definitely make an impact, and I love the idea of you get a gi, and then another, a youth across the continent is getting impacted by that. That's a phenomenal way of really connecting jiu-jitsu all throughout the world. And we'll make sure to post all the links in the show notes of this episode. So if you guys are interested, make sure you check this out. Professor, I don't know if you've noticed, but we are almost an hour and a half. This might be the longest episode we've done, but such a phenomenal conversations are taking place here. Listen, before we start wrapping this up, one of the things that we do on this show is we have a question for you, but the question is from a previous guest, and the guest did not know that you will be the one who's answering it. So it's kind of a question in the dark, and this will be interesting.
Do you remember this one? This is a good one.
Gary's going to take a look on this.
Sometimes they're very serious, and sometimes, they're deep. This could be deep. This could be a good look into your soul. But this is from Kyle Watson. Let me preface this by saying Kyle has a pet pig. So Kyle's question to you is, if you have a pet pig and it dies naturally, do you eat it?
I don't have one. I have dogs. But if I have a pet, most likely I wouldn't. You're like, why? But you can eat in a restaurant or whatever. Usually I try to stick with fish and stuff like that. But once in a while I do other things. But yeah, I think I would have a hard time. Maybe I'll be eating, crying, missing him. So I don't know. I don't think I don't think I'll be able to eat it.
Some of these questions are but that's what makes a good conversation. That's what makes a good show. So at least we know you have a soft spot for for pets.
Yes. And what's its personality? Did you like it?
Literally?
Yeah.
All right. Well, phenomenal. Listen, before we start wrapping this up, you did mention your organizations, your nonprofit, but talk about how can students connect with you? How can listeners connect with you? Social media, websites, where's your academy? We know Arizona, but more specifically, talk a little bit about, some of the things from a, community perspective.
Yeah, I feel the Instagram at Gustavo Dantas BJJ. I think that's the one that I look at it. If you just put Gustavo Dantas on Google, pop up some stuff, my academy, GD Jiu Jitsu. So probably see all kinds of different things there. The podcast, the BJJ Mental Coach podcast. And usually the goal is to interview entrepreneurs, high performers, community leaders, and just giving tips, talking about entrepreneurship, personal development, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm a big personal development junkie, so I always like to talk about that kind of stuff. So if you guys like that, you can check out the BJJ Mental Coach podcast and all the platforms. And yeah, man, and I think that's about it.
I don't know if you remember, but I didn't even bring this up earlier on, but 8 years ago, we recorded a little short documentary with you. Do you remember that?
That's right. Yeah. What is the name? What was that?
It was all things BJJ, but it was like my journey.
Yeah. My journey. Yes.
Well, I'll make sure to put the notes, or Gary will.
We'll put the link
in there in the show notes too, so you guys can check this out. But I just looked this up because I was curious when this was. This was 8 years ago. It's kind of mind blowing. It's been
after so while.
It's a long time ago. So technically, this is the third time we are chatting.
Look at you.
Yeah. So if anyone, one more thing, if anyone is interested in doing any type of fundraiser for Jiu Jitsu Tribe, if that means to buy gis, we have like, you want to make a fundraiser for 25 gis or for 50 gis. It could be a project that they suggest, does not have to be in the United States at all. In Brazil, it could be in the United States, could be in Cameroon, or whatever. We try to do this worldwide. It just happens that Brazil has the most amount of social projects with jiu-jitsu. But anyone interested in doing any type of fundraiser can get in contact with me. If someone want to have like a fundraising seminar too, can let me know. And anything that helps to get the word out of the organization.
Oh yeah,
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We'll make sure to include that. Yeah, we'll promote that as well. So, all right. Shall we officially wrap this up?
I guess so. I guess we can finish up.
Yeah. Do you have more to say?
No. Well, other than the last time we talked, or the first time we did this here on ROL Radio, it was a lot about your journey. Today was a lot more about jiu-jitsu specifically, but then also the opportunities that you're giving other people. So thank you for that, because I think those opportunities really lead to a purpose, and it could be any purpose, right? These people probably aren't going to stay in jiu-jitsu their whole life. Well, hopefully they do, but they might not be moving on to, say, opening an academy or things like that. But hopefully this will give them the drive to succeed in other avenues. So thank you.
No, and as I'm reflecting on today's conversation, is I think what's interesting to really think about is that pay forward or pay back from a long-term involvement in jiu-jitsu doesn't always necessarily come from teaching or being on a mat or competing or being an instructor or being an academy owner. The opportunities are everywhere, and we can really impact communities, the immediate ones around us, but also the ones who, are across the world with very simple gesture, very simple help, commitment, and spreading the word of jiu-jitsu it could be really life-changing for many others. Let's wrap this up for today. Professor, thank you for being here. Thanks for chatting with us. Thank you for the great conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom as always. And Gary?
Yeah, again, just thank you for the opportunities you're providing others. We really appreciate it. And we'll be sure to share with everybody that pays any attention to us, all the links and things like that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. Maybe in 2 years I'll do a part 3.
Hopefully sooner.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Thank you. Peace.
Thank you for listening to ROL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.